Hi, my name is Lisa Martin Naimi, and some of you might also know me as Sofia Magdalena. And I have been away for a while, not away, just away from YouTube and making videos and talking to you. And so I just want to come on and say hi. Hello, happy fall equinox 2019. I really don't know anything about the energies for today or what's going on in the external world, but I just want to share with you what's going on in my world, which hopefully relates to what's going on in your world. And I want to introduce you to my new video series, and it is titled, for now anyways, On Vulnerability. That's the title, On Vulnerability. And so that's my plan. We're going to be talking about vulnerability and what that means. And I actually had intended to look up other people's definition of that before I started this video, and I forgot. So there we go. There is our first experience of vulnerability in this video. So I just want to, just looking at my notes here, just made a few notes. Yeah, so I've been away for a long time, and in the spirit of vulnerability, I want to let you know that I was chronically ill. So I had Lyme and active mono. Oh gosh, what else? Well, those are the two main things. And so really wreaked havoc on my body, and I just wasn't feeling well at all for quite a while, several years. So good news is that I found the help I needed, and I got healthy, and I'm back, and I'm strong and feeling better than I ever have, honestly. I really just can't remember feeling this good. So yay for me, yay for all of us. And I'm happy to be back with you. And so in the spirit of vulnerability, I really haven't prepared or just made a few notes just to help me stay on track, because I tend to ramble a bit. And we'll just dive in here. So I have some intent here with this vulnerability on vulnerability video series. I don't know how many videos there are going to be or how often they're going to happen. I tend to work very intuitively and just roll with whatever I'm asked to do from my guidance, my higher self, and the ascended masters that I work with. And so that's what doing that is being true to me. So we'll just continue with that vein. And so I really intend here to create community. And never really, that just dawned on me a few days ago. That's what has really been missing from my offerings or whatever I've been doing in the past. So and how I've been serving. And so I'm really just exploring that as well. And I don't really have a definition for that either as of right now, but that's what we're going to be doing, and that's what we're going to be building community around this idea of being vulnerable and what that means, and what we can do with that and how that serves us to be vulnerable. I'm also intending that this series of videos is going to serve my leadership. I'm also intensively exploring what that means, and I'll come back to that again in a little bit here, what that really means. I don't want to get too off track here. Also, I want to serve your heart, and I want to do that by speaking through my heart and utilizing the voice of my heart, which is that phrase is something that I learned from a woman whom I've come to consider a mentor, and I haven't actually had any one-on-one interaction with her, as is true of maybe some of the really great authors that we feel very inspired by and who uplift our lives and heal us with the words that they've written. And so, I'm currently inspired by a woman by the name of Kaya Ra, and she wrote a book called The Sophia Code. And I think I've read that book maybe 10 times now, maybe more. I have no idea. I just keep going back to it, keep referring back to it, keep working with it. And I've introduced it to my clients and my friends. And wow, it's quite a masterpiece in my humble opinion. But in one of the chapters, it was the Mother Mary chapter. She channels several ascended masters, and one of them is Mother Mary. And it wasn't until this last time that I read the Mother Mary chapter as part of working through her Stargate 1 curriculum based on the book, that I realized these words of speaking through the voice of your heart. Like 10 times I read that book, and maybe more. I read that passage. I don't even know how many times. I just lost count. But I'd never seen that before. And she does say her book's a living text, and I would have to agree. But boy, that phrase just really woke up something inside of me, and suddenly I could feel my higher self speaking through my heart. And that's really what the voice of your heart is. It's your higher self and the Holy Spirit of your higher self embodied within you and existing within you. And so I've been practicing since I had that experience. Maybe it was about a month ago or so. I've been practicing speaking through the voice of my heart. And at first it sounded so weird. I really didn't even feel like I sounded like myself, which I probably didn't. And maybe I sound different to you now. I certainly feel different, but maybe it's the same. And it's just my perspective over here. But anyways, I want to serve your heart through speaking through the voice of my heart, which is my embodied higher self. And I know that we'll do that. I know that I'll do that, and that we'll do that together. And of that I am sure. And I would also have the intent of connecting with those of you who would like to benefit from my wisdom, skill sets, and experiences. And some of you already know me, and if you don't, then I'll just briefly introduce myself. I am an intuitive and an energy healer. And so that's just kind of how I introduce myself, in the community at large. And when people don't know what that means, then I say, well, I'm a psychic, and then their eyes get really, really big. But really, my real purpose here, and what I really, really do, is I guide others into their own ascended mastery, which is really the embodiment of their higher self. And there are lots of people doing that at this time. Each have our own different flavor and our own voice, and our own nuances to add and share to that. And so that's what I'm here doing also. And it seems to be that who I am really attracting and working with these days, and maybe, who knows, for the rest of my life or until my purpose upgrades again, and that is people who are embodied angels. Either they know they are, or they think they might be, or they're wondering if they are, or they are and they don't even know yet. That seems to be who I'm attracting. And I've been working on a mystery school that I've received. I'm working on writing it in book form. I think I've been working on it for 2 years already. And again, from a place of vulnerability, am I ever going to finish this thing? I have no idea. Oh gosh, that's a journey in itself, as anyone who's written a book will know about. So I want to connect with you, and I also intend to serve myself with this series of videos, again, being totally vulnerable and transparent with you. And as I've learned recently from Kaya Ra in her Stargate 2 curriculum, which is on leadership, that self-growth into deeper spiritual maturity, which is so important to me. It's really a major motivating factor for me. is continuing to develop my spiritual maturity. But self-growth into that happens when we are vulnerable and when we take action and put ourselves into the position of our leadership, with all the mistakes that we're going to make and everything we don't know yet, and all the ways maybe we judge ourselves and are still working through healing and upgrading. And goodness gracious, doesn't it seem like there's no end to that? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do all of that with all the bumps in the road, and you'll get to see that with me. And finally, again, in the spirit of vulnerability and transparency, I would love to utilize this platform to grow my base of potential clients. And nothing fulfills me more than serving a client one-on-one. Maybe this is my one-on-one today, but one-on-one. Oh my gosh, that is just one of the most fulfilling parts of my life, is serving others and walking them through their periods of growth and stagnancy and integration and meltdowns, and working through the resistances of their ego, and learning about, the magnificence that they are and their superpowers, and activating their gifts and developing skill sets and exploring all of that. Oh my gosh. Hopefully you can feel that excitement and how that fills my heart. Hopefully you can feel that being transmitted across the video waves here. So that's my intent. And the reason that I want to do this video series called On Vulnerability, we're also not going to edit this video, as I had this really interesting experience, and it certainly is not the first time I've had it. I've had this experience so many times, but this time I was just, in that right time and space to pull this together and put myself in front of you again. And I attended Kaya Ra's healing, I don't know if she didn't call it an intensive or an immersive, but I don't know, we'll just use one of those words, in Hawaii in August. So this is just a little bit more than a month ago I was there. And it was a 3-day long experience, and each day she offered a Q&A session. There was a group of about 35 people there, and so really the instructions were, if your higher self guides you, then please raise your hand and ask a question. And I hadn't planned on asking any question. I was like, I'm not getting up there. That looks, everybody who gets up there cries in front of the whole group, but that's when it's really, really good, right? When everybody's crying and their hearts are open, and oh man, they're vulnerable and they're healing, and it's just the best stuff. Anyways, so I hadn't planned on doing that. I was just not in that. I just didn't think that was for me. And on day 2, boy, did I get a surprise. My higher self just came in some way like I have never experienced it before, and just filled me up. And I could not keep my hand down. My hand had to go up, and my higher self asked me to put it up. And, I have given I've devoted myself to serving my higher self and allowing it to be my guide. And, that is a arrangement I have with my higher self. So I followed through and complied, which is always a good idea. Always a good idea to go through with your higher self's ideas. Just be sure it's your higher self talking to you, not something else. So I did, and I admitted something to the group with that microphone there in front of Kaya Ra, and that was something that's been bothering me for a long time, and has honestly kept me away from making these videos, which is sometimes I trigger people, and sometimes other people trigger me. And I did not know how to handle that or respond to those situations from a place of spiritual maturity. And so, I shrunk back, and on top of my illness, and it was just, another mitigating factor here. Yeah, I went inside myself. Not that that's negative. It's nothing bad. It's actually part of the cycle. It's not a shortcoming at all. It's part of the cycle of healing and growth and ascension and ascended mastery and spiritual maturity and leadership, to be honest. It's just part of that whole cycle. And so after, and I did cry. Oh man, did I ever cry. Whew, cried at that microphone. That was really intense. It was so good. And then later on that day, and then on the third and final day of this retreat, several people approached me and they thanked me for stepping up to the microphone and being so vulnerable and so transparent and so courageous. And those qualities that I unknowingly displayed were healing for them, because they too have felt that as well. So I'm guessing that you too, at some point in your life, maybe now, have had these experiences and these feelings about yourself as well. And maybe it's held you back, or you felt that it's held you back. And you just haven't been quite ready to step forward with whatever it is your higher self is asking you to step forward with. So, so I hope that this little story serves to inspire you to take action on whatever your higher self is asking of you in your service to yourself, your own heart, and your leadership. So, so we're all vulnerable. Everyone is, and so let's just talk about it. Hey, let's just get it out there and talk about it. Even people who hide and cover their vulnerability, which is essentially they're trying to deny that they have vulnerabilities. I've certainly done that. I think I was trained to do that from childhood, and through childhood in school, and then once I started working in corporations, whew, boy, that was really, that message was sent home. Hide your vulnerability. Those are really, I think, the people who are the most vulnerable, because they haven't started to uncover and examine that part of themselves yet. Maybe they haven't examined themselves at all. And I certainly was one of those people, and that was something I needed to work through. And hey, maybe that's my medicine. Maybe that's part of the medicine that I am here to offer in this lifetime to anyone who's attracted to listening to what I might have to say. So I believe vulnerability is a superpower. And as I was preparing for this video today, I kept thinking about Brene Brown. I was going to review her video on vulnerability, and then I completely forgot. So there's another vulnerability, I'm forgetting. Anyways, maybe you'll be inspired to go watch that or rewatch it. If you've probably all seen it, but she really has some fantastic words of wisdom there. And what I learned from her is that vulnerability is really a superpower. And I experience that it's really a pathway to love, both loving ourselves and receiving the universal unconditional love, which I also refer to as the seventh dimensional love frequency. And boy, I've got a whole teaching on that, but that's not what today's video is about. So we'll save that for another time, baby. But I also find that love also leads us into vulnerability. So there's like this cyclical pattern. It might not be cyclical. It might be more like a lemniscate, the figure 8, the infinity symbol. And on one lobe, there's love. And on the other lobe, there's vulnerability. And we just back and forth. Well, if we allow ourselves to surrender, then we can just flow back and forth between the two and see what they have to offer us. So that's my why, about why I want to talk about this vulnerability. So I want to talk a little bit about my training. And so you mentioned that I'm an intuitive, and so that's where my training is. I haven't taken lots of courses. I worked one-on-one with this incredible psychic. I worked with her for 4 years as my mentor. We were working on healing me. And during that time, I just learned as much from her as I possibly could. And I worked with her up until the time she transitioned. I think it's been 3.5 years now that that she transitioned to the other side. And certainly, given the skill set she helped me to develop, some that I inherently have, I just needed to know that they were there and build confidence that I could use them with regularity and be able to rely on them. I just needed some help building my confidence about those things. But certainly we've communicated since while she's on the other side. So that's always really, really cool. But I'm not a psychologist, or I'm not classically trained. I'm not a sociologist. I don't have any education at all in therapy. I've taken psychology 101 in college, but that's really it. I am an avid reader. I read so many self-help books and books written by other intuitives and psychics and psychologist Clarissa Pinkola Estes, Woman Who Ran with the Wolves. Oh my gosh, that book. Whew. That's a walk through vulnerability right there. But anyways, so at the end of the day, I'm an intuitive and a healer, an energy healer. And, that's where my expertise and my wisdom and my mastery lie. And, more specifically, I use my gifts and my sensitivities to walk people into their own ascended mastery, which I mentioned before as I introduced myself. And, to be honest with you, just saying that in this kind of public format, that feels vulnerable to me. Maybe that feels vulnerable for you too, when you admit that about yourself to other people. We're supposed to feel powerful and come from a place of power when we do that. It feels scary. It really does, especially when maybe we're around people who don't get us or aren't into what we're into. Or they're a complete stranger and they ask you what you do. Like, whew, I feel vulnerable every time I am asked that question. And of course, I want to respond as truthfully as I can. So let's see. So the other place where I have received training is from my higher self, as well as a number of ascended master guides that I work with. My higher self has been my number one best guide, as I hope it is for you. And if it isn't, then my greatest wish for you is that one day you develop that relationship with your higher self. And really consider my higher self my inner guru. And certainly that's not a new concept. That's kind of that idea is certainly out there. I've also developed a relationship with Source, who I call Sophia, and then the Ascended Masters have just recently come on the scene for me within the last 2 years. And they, oh gosh, I really can't remember which came first, but I have this mystery school that I'm working on, as I mentioned, and so there are Ascended Masters associated with that, and some of the names are familiar to you and me, and some aren't. There are some beings in there that I did not know existed, and certainly as a result of working with the Sophia Code, I'm also working with the Ascended Masters that are written about in that book, who are White Buffalo Woman, Isis, Hathor, Green Tara, Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, Kuan Yin, and the Seraphim Angels, which show up in also a dragon form. you know, hey, they can do anything. So they're shapeshifters. So that's who I work with, and that's where my training comes from, and my support. Oh, also the angels, all the angels, the archangels. You know, they're right there supporting me as well. And so, so that's a little bit about my training. So my plan for this video series is to share with you, you know, where I am in my current process. So another thing that I just really love to share that excites me just beyond any kind of reasonableness is sharing my, you know, my current process, or I call them my discoveries, and I just love sharing them. It's been so long since I made a video. Like I just can't even imagine catching you up on where I've been, and, you know, in my inner world, and all that I've seen and heard and learned and felt and received and healed. Like it's just too much. Like it would literally take a book, maybe two, to do that, and which I'm certainly working on. I have no idea when I'm ever going to be finished with these things. So I'm just going to jump in where I am, and hey, if you have questions, you can ask me. If you don't know what I'm talking about, and then we can, you know, see where we need to fill in, and give you some background. So so that's really it. That's my plan. Oh, pardon me. And that's where I am today. Today I'm being vulnerable, and that's the lesson for today. And I think that's it. And so, you know, I'd hoped to also, you know, let you know how you can work with me one-on-one. And I have been working one-on-one with some of my clients. I've offered them a 1-year program, and I wanted to get uploaded on my website, you know, an application process for this 1-year program with a few questions, just to, you know, make sure we're the right fit for each other. We haven't done that yet. So I just wanted to make this video, because if I wait until I have that upload on my website, this video might never ever happen. So you can go into my website, which is just my name, Lisa Martin Naimi, with a .com at the end, and you see what I do available, which, you know, I have my one-on-one sessions, and you can buy either one or a package up front of 3 or 6, and that's what I have available right now. So this is where we'll start, and we'll see where this goes and what I'm inspired to do and create. And so that's it for today, and looking forward to talking to you again next time, and continuing to practice through speaking through the heart, and as the voice of the heart, the higher self. And a happy fall equinox again, and best wishes. See you soon. Bye-bye.